Wow, you're really taking me far, far back. That was a long time ago. So I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania, one of the states, northeast states in the U.S. A very small town, an agricultural town. A lot of grape farms there. And, honestly, I had a lot of dreams, of course, like a lot of small boys do. Professional athlete, was probably high on my list in terms of, fantasizing about a future. But as I got older, I have to admit that growing up in a small town, I thought I would always be in that small town. And when I went away to university, which I went away to be an athlete, I stumbled onto this field of creativity. I had an academic advisor who taught a course in creativity, and he said to me, I really think you would enjoy this course. And so I took my first course in creativity back in 1981 at a community college. I was there to be on the wrestling team, and it transformed me. It transformed me. And that, often when people get really committed to and passionate about something, it's because they have had a personal experience. And I had a personal experience because I grew up in a small town, and I moved away to go to a community college to pursue athletics. And then suddenly I became intellectually alive. And as a result of studying creativity, and when we start to study creativity, we really are studying ourselves, right? Because the source of creativity is the individual. And so I grew immensely in my confidence. I grew immensely in terms of my outlook on life and my imagination in terms of what I could do. So what's funny, what's funny is that you talk about dreams of being an astronaut and so forth. And yes, I had the traditional, I want to grow up and be a football player or famous baseball player. But when I took this first course in creativity, that's when I would say I had really the first grounded vision of what I could be in my life, much larger than I imagined that I could be, that I fell in love with the idea of being a writer, and now I'm a writer. Oh. I fell in love with the idea of studying in a field and making a contribution and being a thought leader. And I am. So it was really that first course in creativity where I learned how to be a creative problem solver. I learned to fuel my imagination and to see a world of possibilities and opportunities rather than limitations and barriers. It was really at the age of like 18, 19 years old that I thought, wow, I can be more. I can do more. I had this internal locus of control. I had this gift of imagination, and it was that personal transformation that I went through that really, and it really was the gift of creativity. Honestly, it was getting in connection with my own creativity that made all the difference.
Wow. So it's all happened because of one advisor recommended you to take a
just
creativity.
Chance, just luck. It was just luck. Actually, it came out of frustration too. I had my first year at university. I went to a local university very close to the small town that I grew up in, and I was commuting. And it was okay. I was having a good experience. I was studying psychology. But I was missing something. I wanted to, I guess it was that yearning to break down one of the definitions of creativity that I like is the ability to overcome self-imposed constraints, So we often, I was talking earlier about how life and experiences and our environment, school and work can limit our creativity. I want to back up a little bit and say we are responsible for our own creativity, our own imagination. So we, yes, are impacted by our social environment, but we also limit, because of self-imposed constraints, we limit ourselves in terms of how much we use our creativity. So a self-imposed constraint that I had was, everybody around me is going to the local university. So I went to the local university. I was commuting. I was doing what most everyone else from my graduating high school class, what they were doing. And yet somehow I was not fully satisfied. And so I had to break that barrier of leaving my small town. I had to get outside of my comfort zone, right? So you don't grow unless you get outside of your comfort zone and you expose yourself to new things, which is a fundamental characteristic of creativity, is being open to new experiences. And so after that first year, when something somehow was not satisfying for me, I had to challenge my own self-imposed constraint that I would live forever in this small town and find a way to get a career there and so forth. But when I broke that barrier, so yes, it was chance. Yes, it was luck that I met this academic advisor and he happened to teach creativity. But I had to make a decision first, which was to bring change into my life, right? And go away to college. And so that decision opened up this new opportunity. Wow. And I would say honestly, in life we come to these key decisions, that metaphor of the fork in the road where you can choose the path to the left or the path to the right. Every major decision I have made since then has always moved me in the continuous direction of furthering my study of creativity and my own development as a creative person. So, now today, many years later, a distinguished professor, I'm an author, I'm a department chair, I'm a longtime faculty member. But beyond that, I'm also a consultant, I'm a speaker, I run a small business, Foresight. I'm a partner with a lovely team of individuals, professionals who have commercialized a tool that I've developed called Foresight, which measures people's preferences within the creative process. So one way to give people's creativity back is to help them to identify how it's already inside of them. Oh. And so this psychological tool identifies people's preferences for 4 areas within the creative process. And everyone has creativity already inside of them. And when you look at fundamentally the creative process, what does it involve? It involves clarifying, okay, what's the problem I need to address? What's the current reality? Do I understand that? Do I understand the root causes to the problem? Then there's ideation. Okay, so what do I do about this? What can I imagine as new possibilities? The third is taking the best ideas that come from your imagination and refining them into workable solutions and making sure that they fit the situation, that they have true potential, and then it's putting things into action, it's implementing. And so for short, we call these clarifiers, ideators, developers, and implementers. And what we know from psychology is that people have different degrees of energy for those 4 areas. And it also tells us about their personality. So clarifiers are different than ideators, they're different from developers than they are from implementers. So this has been commercialized. So I have 4 partners that I work with. There have been several 100,000 people who've completed this measure. It's available in 7 different languages. And it's really extremely a powerful tool to help people understand their own creativity, but also teams, because we work in teams and we collaborate with people. This is another kind of diversity. I might be someone who really is comfortable with high ideating, who's working with someone who really prefers clarifying. That can lead to tension because our personalities are so different. The high ideator is the dreamer and thinking about the future, and their imagination is always, thinking about possibilities, whereas the clarifying type person is, hold on, let's look at the situation carefully. Let's make sure we understand all the information in front of us, much more grounded in reality. So the psychological tool helps people to understand these differences because it promotes more effective collaboration. So what I'm saying is, yes, I'm an entrepreneur as well. I have an Airbnb that I run. So I have very much a creative life now because of the training that I've gone through.
42 years ago, 1981.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.